Welcome back to the Old Machine Factory's Garage series. As you can see, in this episode we will be looking through some of the gearbox and clutch ideas that I have had and the final solution that I came up with for our drift legacy build. So in that build we are using the AJ-V8 Jaguar engine, turbocharged, and the idea is that we are going to drift that car as a RVD rear wheel drive setup, so we need some kind of a manual gearbox to fit into that engine. And I had some ideas. So here is the SD5 5-speed from BMW, the ZF gearbox found in, for example, the E36 M3s. Then I have the GS6 37DZ from E46s and onwards. And then I have here a piece of a BMW GS6 53DZ from E60 530Ds and 535Ds. And I was familiar with these BMW boxes, and I know that they are robust. They are very well used in the drifting scene and in the performance street cars. So I wanted to see if I could use one of these. And I even bought an automatic gearbox from a Jaguar, so I could steal the automatic bell housing and weld it onto one of these boxes. Because the fact is that at least not in numbers, we haven't got any manual versions of the AJ-V8 cars. So there are some rumors about some XK Jags prototype versions, small production number versions that would have a manual gearbox on them. And then there is a rumor that Aston Martin Vantage V8 manual would have the same some base dimensions, same with the AJ-V8 Jaguar engines, and the bell housing would fit there. But as you probably guess and and know that the Aston Martin parts are very expensive and hard to source, so I tried to find another solution and a solution that would be holding up roughly 600 horsepower and 800 newton meters of torque in this phase of the project would, accept the fact that we will be clutch kicking it and using that torque. So we also need a very good clutch. And the idea is that all of these parts need to be easily sourceable, cheap, and then something that can be actually, I could have parts on the shelf for them, so no custom unicorns for this project. And then doing some research, I found this gearbox, and this is a very funny story because this is a Jaguar 2.7 liter turbo diesel S-type manual gearbox with 6 speeds. And as you can see, the bell housing is quite odd. It has 13 bolts mounting the gearbox to the engine, with 2 additional bolts for the starter. And this is exactly the same interface that we have in the V8s. So I guess that the company Jaguar has had some kind of idea to fit also manual gearboxes to the V8s, but for some business case reason or something, they haven't seen that sensible, and then they have only used this gearbox in the diesels. And I started wondering that have they had enough money to create their own base design, a clean sheet from the scratch, built their own design for a manual gearbox. And that got me thinking. I started doing some research, and then I found out that actually the rear end of this gearbox and the base design for that gearbox is the same as we have in the GS6 53DZ BMW boxes. So this mounting interface here. So this interface between the bell housing and the rest of the gearbox. Of course you have some bearings here and some of the gear leverage components also mounted to this end, but this part with main internals is the same. So we could swap out basically the BMW rear end to this box, at least from the main dimensions point of view. And that location for the gear leverage is different, but otherwise the casting seems to be very much the same. Of course some mounting differences, but for the like technical details that matter, this seems to be the same. And then I started thinking that if we could use the rear ends from the very easily sourceable BMW gearboxes. So with these SD5s, for example, the thing is that you can get these rear parts, the internals, quite easily. But for the V8 variants, which also I have in one of my V8 Scorpios, the bell housing is quite difficult to source. So if this gearbox breaks, some of the internals break, you can swap in a 6-cylinder variant back end to the bell housing of the V8. So I thought maybe we could do the same here. So I continued my studies further, and I learned that the clutch shaft seal is the same as in the BMW. Also I think that cap is the same, so you could get the parts from BMW. But if we take a look at the GS6 53 clutch shaft, it's much bigger from the spline. It's quite hard to see here, but it's much bigger. So we could basically fit from the shaft seal point of view the BMW gearbox. I believe that I haven't checked this, but I believe that also we could manage the clearances and the main dimensions so that we could actually fit the front end to the BMW gearbox. But in Jaguar we have a release bearing in this housing here, and as you can see the release bearing doesn't have a big clearance around the shaft, so we couldn't fit the BMW shaft through it. So this would mean then that we would need to create some kind of a custom release bearing, aftermarket release bearing there, because the BMW boxes, they have these levers and main cylinder, the slave cylinder for the clutches on the end of that lever. So we would need to figure out some kind of a hydraulic release bearing retrofit thing there. But of course that's not a problem. But I started then thinking that what actually is this spline from? What is this shaft? Because have they really done their own spline design on this shaft? Then I thought that maybe it's from the 37 variant, so the little brother of the big box. And if we take a look, we have here a clutch plate that fits that spline, and then let's see if it fits also here. So this spline is very much the same looking, as you can see, but no matter how we try, it doesn't fit there. So and these ones have the 10 spline shaft, so it's not a BMW shaft that at least I know of. So then I thought maybe it's a Peugeot thing, because this is behind the Peugeot engine, but it's not from Peugeot. Then I started looking out for the actual dimensions, and I learned that actually that shaft, which is behind the Peugeot diesel engine, in a BMW ZF gearbox, in a Jaguar, of course we have the clutch disc that fits that gearbox shaft from a Mercedes. naturally. So I learned that we can use actually the performance discs for Mercedes in this gearbox with this shaft. Then we can use the same release bearing, at least on the gearbox side. Then I started thinking that maybe, as we can get these Mercedes clutch discs in 240 millimeter size, the original diesels would be 260, and you cannot source them without the pressure plates and everything, and I have no idea how well they last. So we could take the easily sourceable and very good 240 millimeter clutch disc from Mercedes, use them with a BMW SAS Race Engineering 765 pressure plates, which are good. I have used them with the BMW solutions. So then we just had the problem that if we can use the release bearing from the Jaguar, and we can, it fits there very nicely. So this now costs 50 euros or 60 euros, something like that. It has the release bearing and then the slave cylinder for the clutch. Then we can use like 150 euro performance clutch plates from from Mercedes, and these are like 250 euros, 250 euros. Very good pressure plates, and those fit together now. If we build a custom flywheel. Then I started thinking about the flywheel. So basically there's a problem that we need to have the starter gear and then the trigger for the engine. But I decided that we could use that from a V8 Jaguar flex plate. So we could leave this behind the actual very simple custom flywheel, because here we would have the torque converter, but now instead of that we will just bolt here a custom very simple flywheel, which will then I will design it so that we can use the Mercedes clutch disc, and the mounting depth for the pressure plate will be correct, so that we get the maximum pressure on the disc. So that's very easy to do, and the cost is like 300 to 500 euros depending on from you who you buy it. And of course one thing that I was considering is to change the trigger from the back end of the engine to the front of the crankshaft, but the problem is that here we have on the Jaguar engines this wheel of fortune. So just a cone collet and non-locating damper. So then the thing is that we would have had to create some kind of a locating trigger to have the trigger angle always correct, absolutely, with the crankshaft. So I decided that let's leave that as it is from the factory, and let's use just this and create a simple flywheel design, which is easy to source and easy to design and cheap to manufacture. Then what we have left from this package to figure out is how much throw we need for the release bearing to be able to disengage the clutch. So I bought actually this gearbox and that final drive shafts and the pedals and propeller shafts and everything for 300 euros, and then used the pedals and the main cylinder from Jag to define that how much of throw we need and how much of displacement from the cylinder we need for releasing the clutch with the Subaru pedals and then I learned that this, I believe it was €80 main cylinder, we can fit this to the Subaru pedal and then just run a line between this and the release bearing, and then we should be good to go. So that's a long story short. And I believe that I found a very working and cheap solution for our use for this. And if you like this study and you know someone who would like to see this and is thinking about using the AJ-V8 in something, hit the like button, subscribe, share this to your friend, and I hope to see you in the next video.